Hello, and welcome to the Empress podcast. I am your host, Jessica, known in the online space as Jess the Empress. I started this podcast to help you be present with yourself, cope with chaos, and simplify your life. I do this by combining psychology, behavioral science, and the tarot. I have a background in mental health, specifically a master's in clinical social work from USC, and I'm a professional tarot reader. So get ready to have a nurturing, creative, and empowering experience with me as we use practical magic. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to the Empress podcast. I'm your host, Jess, and today we're diving into the art of forming well-rounded opinions. In a world filled with information overload and polarized viewpoints, it's more important than ever to develop informed, balanced, and open opinions. So grab your coffee and your snacks. I want you to get comfortable. Let's explore how to build well-rounded opinions together. Let's start by outlining the steps to forming a well-rounded opinion. Whether it's a social issue, a personal decision, or a complex global topic, the steps that I'm going to share will help you craft an opinion that is based on solid ground. Step number 1, you're going to want to identify the topic and the scope. So first things first, clearly define what you want to form an opinion about. It's crucial to narrow down the topic and determine the specific aspects or questions that you're interested in. Because when you narrow down the topic, it helps you stay focused and prevents you from getting overwhelmed by way too much information or going down rabbit trails that have nothing to do with your original topic. Step number 2 is gathering information. What we don't want to do is just grab anything at our fingertips. I know that it's easily accessible, but what's easily accessible is usually misinformation, inaccurate, half information. So, what does gathering information actually involve? Okay. Gathering information involves one, a set of primary sources. You're going to collect data and firsthand accounts directly related to the topic. The next thing you're going to do is find some secondary sources. So you want to look for analysis, interpretations, and critiques of those primary sources. And the third thing is diverse perspectives. Looking at information from a ton of different viewpoints can actually be really helpful, including looking at information and viewpoints that you disagree with, because diversity in perspective is critical in understanding the whole picture. And I feel like this is something that people miss. They don't want to listen to the other side. They don't want to hear oppositional viewpoints because they feel threatened by something that's different. But you can agree to disagree and keep forming your own opinion. All right, now that you've gathered your information from your primary and secondary resources plus different perspectives, you're going to evaluate the credibility because not all sources are created equal. You want to assess the reliability of those sources that you gather. So maybe in your original dive into this information, you're finding that the sources are not that credible. That's okay. You get to redo it all over again, but you want to check for biases, the credentials, the expertise of these people, authors, whoever is basically sharing the information. You can also use fact checking tools. I'm going to share a few in just a second, but this step, the fact checking, this ensures that your opinion is built on a foundation that is accurate and that is trustworthy, not just something that's been shared and reshared a million times without anyone really critically looking at the info. So the 3 websites I'm going to share with you, they're pretty well known and reputable sources for fact checking. The first one is Snopes, which is snopes.com. It's one of the oldest and most reliable fact checking websites. It covers a wide range of topics, including urban legends, rumors. A lot of viral misinformation will come up on this website, which is awesome. Second, it's pretty straightforward, but it's factcheck.org. This is a project by the Annenberg Public Policy Center. And it focuses on verifying the factual accuracy of the claims that are made by political figures, advertisements, and news stories. And I think that can be really helpful as well, especially with news stories and advertisements, because we see so many keywords and trigger words and clickbait. And I don't think there's anything wrong with falling for that. But if you're forming an opinion based on that type of stuff, it's probably not a well rounded opinion. So you want to run it through, a little fact checking. And then PolitiFact. So this is run by the Pontier Institute. PolitiFact rates the accuracy of statements that are made by elected officials and other public officials. There's a thing that they have on there called the truthometer, and it says that things are like true or that their pants are on fire, indicating that they're a liar, it's misinformation. So it's interesting to see these things pop up, especially now as our political climate here in America, at least, is like intensifying and we're getting close to the debates. It's very easy to get riled up when you're listening at what people say and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this person is stating facts and those facts scare me. Or the opposite of like, oh, this person's like just a liar and you're getting aggravated by it. But the reality is, if you know how to actually and objectively find information for yourself, you're less likely to get tossed around and go on this emotional roller coaster over all the misinformation that's out there. I want to quickly pivot into a different scenario, which is fact checking more word of mouth, because not everything happens online. So I'm going to give you a short and more straightforward formula for fact checking word of mouth information, from like work or friends or family. So the first thing you're going to want to do is listen carefully. Pay attention to the details of the information that's shared. You want to note, key points, different names, dates, specific claims that are made. Asking questions, because this is the really cool thing that we get to do when these things are happening. Asking questions. So this is really crucial. Who, what, when, where, why, how are always your best bet to go with when it comes to critically assessing whatever information you're being given. Who is the source of the information? Where did they actually hear it? Are there supporting details or evidence? And if so, get your hands on them and bring those into your life, assess them so that they can help you form your opinion. And then you want to verify with reliable sources. So, like I said, I gave you 3 different websites that you can, run some of this information through. If someone is maybe repeating something that they did hear in the news or they did read. If not, going to people that are trustworthy and talking about things can be really helpful in getting you a clearer perspective of the information and your own opinion. And then you're going to cross-check multiple sources. So compare the information against multiple reliable sources to see if they can corroborate the claim. You want to steer clear from people or sources that are very biased and constantly get in their own way, that constantly put that bias ahead of being objective. And again, people that are just talking about unverified information. They heard it from someone who heard it from someone who heard it from someone. I would hesitate to believe anything someone says if that's the word of mouth that it's coming from. That's just me. And similarly to what we've talked about, you're still going to want to evaluate the credibility. So is this person giving you this information an actually credible person? Have they proven to be credible? Now, if you don't know them and you're just establishing a relationship with them, take what they're saying with a grain of salt. Sometimes time will tell what is the truth and what isn't, and who is trustworthy and who isn't. And then you're going to reflect, right? You're going to decide based on the evidence, based on what you understand, the knowledge you have presented to you so far, determine the likelihood that the claims made are true or false. Hey there, coffee lovers. Are you tired of settling for boring coffee? I have a treat for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Heartwork Coffee Bar, your one-stop destination for exceptional coffee experiences. Whether you're a coffee connoisseur or just someone who appreciates a great cup of joe, Heartwork Coffee Bar is here to elevate your coffee game to new heights. At Heartwork Coffee Bar, they take pride in their craft because each batch is carefully roasted to perfection, ensuring that every sip is a symphony of flavor. From the rich and the robust to the light and fruity, they have a coffee blend for every palate. And here's the best part. For you amazing podcast listeners, Heartwork Coffee Bar is offering an exclusive 10% discount on your purchase. Just use the code Empress10 at checkout and you'll save big on your order. Why settle for ordinary when you can indulge in the extraordinary coffee from Heartwork Coffee Bar? Remember to use code Empress10 for that special 10% discount and treat yourself to the coffee experience that you deserve. Don't miss out on this fantastic offer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks to Heartwork Coffee Bar for making today's episode possible. Now go grab your favorite mug, brew a fresh cup, and enjoy the podcast with the perfect companion, Heartwork Coffee Bar. Cheers. And I think it's really important to be open to revising your understanding because maybe new information comes in and that can change some of your perspective. But when it comes to more personal, offline interactions, I think following this type of flow will be really helpful and empowering for you in making a well-informed decision based on the evidence that you have and the relationships that you're in. And let's get back to the main steps here. So we had just wrapped up number 3, which was all about evaluating the credibility. So after we evaluate the credibility, we're going to then analyze the information. So we're going to take all the information that we've gathered and we're going to identify the key points, the arguments. We're going to look for patterns, trends, inconsistencies, and then compare and contrast all those different perspectives. This analysis will help you understand the nuances of the topic. And highlighting nuances of the topic is so important because so many of us want things to be black and white. But in reality, most of life is in shades of gray. Very few things are black and white. So you want to consider some of the other things at play when forming your opinion. You want to have a larger perspective than just, who the person is, what's going on globally, economically, financially. I mean, those things can impact your opinion and help you stay grounded in the process of forming your opinion. So, with your analysis in hand, you're going to go into step number 5, which is reflect and synthesize. So, think critically about the information. You're going to combine insights from that variety of sources and form a comprehensive understanding. Consider the strengths and weaknesses of different arguments. This synthesis is where you're going to get your well-rounded opinion. And this is where the well-rounded opinion really starts to take shape because you can see flaws in arguments, you can see highlights in arguments. Step number 6 is developing a thesis or a main point based on your synthesis of the information. You're going to support your opinion with evidence and reasoned arguments. Remember, a well-rounded opinion is not just about having a stance, but it is also about understanding and articulating its reasoning. You have to be able to say how you're coming to that conclusion. How are you actually standing on that opinion really does matter, at least for having a well-rounded opinion and not just regurgitating something that somebody reposted. And then you're going to want to test your opinion. So that is step number 7. It's time to put your opinion to the test. Discuss it with others to see how it holds up against all those different viewpoints. Engage in debates or write about your opinion to further define it. You guys know I'm a journal girly, so I totally love doing this. But this step is essential for ensuring that your opinion is robust and also resilient. But I do feel like having openness is an important part of having an opinion. It doesn't have to be something that's set in stone. So the last step is to revise and update. Staying informed because we're always getting new information. I mean, like it's, I guess, the age of information. It's accessible all the time. So we have to be willing to adjust our opinion as new information emerges. Continuously seek out diverse perspectives to ensure that your opinion remains well-rounded. Flexibility is the hallmark of a thoughtful opinion. Being able to take into consideration what other people are saying and having a filter, because obviously you can't let every single thing in. That's, when you would fall prey to misinformation and really not being able to have and not having critical thinking skills. And those are things that we want to improve, right? Critical thinking skills. So, how will you know that you have a well-rounded opinion, right? There are some key indicators. 1, you're going to be informed. Your opinion is based on a thorough understanding of the topic, incorporating a wide range of information. Thorough is the key word. If all you're doing is talking about someone else's talking point that they probably stole a talking point from another person who stole a talking point from, you really don't have an understanding of the topic. Number two is balance. You have considered multiple viewpoints and have weighed the evidence fairly. Okay. Number three, supported. Your opinion is backed by credible evidence and logical reasoning. Logical reasoning is key. I may end up doing a podcast episode on logical fallacies. I think that would be really important. I've done a little bit of talking about that here and there in the past. Maybe I'll do a deep dive into that. But moving on, flexibility. You're open to revising your opinion in light of new evidence or better arguments. That's how you actually know that you have a well rounded opinion, that you've formed a well rounded opinion. When you can clearly and persuasively articulate your opinion to other people, this demonstrates that you have that deep understanding of the topic. So, I have some self inquiry questions that you can start with that will help you evaluate whether or not the opinions you have right now are well balanced opinions. These questions mirror the main points that I talked about earlier in the episode. So, for understanding the basis of your opinion, like what's the main point of your opinion? That's again something you need to identify. So, ask yourself this question: what's the main point of my opinion? Next, you can ask yourself, what evidence do I have to support this opinion? How did I come to form this opinion? Was it based on personal experience? Was it based on research? Was it based on something I heard? Assessing information and sources. So, are my sources credible and reliable? Have I verified their accuracy? Have I consulted a variety of sources, including those that might challenge my viewpoint? Have I checked for potential biases in the sources that I used? When considering multiple perspectives, you want to ask, have I considered the different viewpoints on this issue? If I have, what are they? You want to clearly outline those different viewpoints. How do proponents and opponents of this opinion justify their positions? So, how are other people walking themselves through to A to Z and standing by their opinion? And what are the strengths and weaknesses of these opposing arguments? Evaluating personal bias. Are there any biases that might be influencing my opinion? Am I open to changing my opinion if presented with new and credible information? How do my personal experiences and background shape my perspective on this issue? And then touching on the main point of reflecting for logical consistency, is my opinion logically consistent or are there any contradictions in my reasoning? You can ask yourself, have I avoided logical fallacies in forming my opinion? And you know what? If you don't know what logical fallacies are, totally fine. Do a little Google search, pull up those logical fallacies, and run yourself through that list and ask yourself, am I doing any of these things? Don't be shocked when you're probably doing like 5 of them. It's totally fine. It's totally normal. But it's also helpful to know that you're doing it so that you don't repeat falling into those logical fallacies when you're forming your opinion in the future. Does my opinion hold up under scrutiny and questioning? If it doesn't, then you're not on solid ground with your opinion. Considering implications and consequences. What are the potential implications and consequences of my opinion? I love this because this kind of reminds me of cognitive behavioral therapy, where we really want to understand how our beliefs inform our actions and our feelings. But how might this opinion affect other people? And am I considering their perspectives and experiences? Is my opinion rooted in empathy and understanding of different viewpoints? And in seeking feedback, you want to ask yourself, have I discussed my opinions with other people who might disagree with me? What feedback did I receive? How did these discussions influence my thinking? Am I willing to engage in further dialogue to refine and balance my opinion? And then reflecting on that growth and adaptability, has my opinion evolved over time as I gathered information? And you might reflect and say, oh my gosh, I haven't even gathered any new information. Am I actively seeking out new information and perspectives to keep my opinion well rounded? And then lastly, how can I continue to challenge and refine my opinion moving forward? This might feel like a lot of questions. So, what I'm going to actually do is save a little copy for you guys and have it available for you to download because I think it just makes sense to have this list in front of you instead of feeling like you need to just like write everything down. But it can be cool to have these questions and then you can just go through them at your own pace and in your own time. Personally, I think keeping this on your phone could be really great, especially if you're engaging in a conversation with someone and you need to kind of remember, oh, what's the framework for creating my own opinion? What do I need to do in order to be on solid ground with how I'm thinking about this? And it's not like you have to answer these questions all at one time. So definitely give yourself some space because I want you guys out here to be having really thoughtful and informed opinions. I know that opinions are so wild, they're all over the place. Like I said, there's so much more misinformation and people just regurgitating stuff without seriously critically assessing their own biases, the information itself, where that information comes from. But honestly, like, this is a part of growing up. This is a part of stepping into the adult arena, as being able to critically think. It takes a lot of confidence to actually have your own opinion and to stand on that opinion. And if you're having conversations with people going over those questions that you're asking yourself, you can reflect those in conversation so that way other people can have an understanding that maybe they're not on such solid ground with the way that they're thinking about things either. I do hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I also hope you found these steps helpful and that they inspire you to approach forming an opinion with a lot of curiosity and openness. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with your friends, all the things. And until next time, be kind to yourself. Bye. Hey, love, I want to ask you to rate and review my podcast. Giving me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts would mean the world to me. I love knowing who's listening and what everyone is getting from the episode, so please take a moment of your time to share your thoughts, and I look forward to reading your reviews soon.